You're listening to the Jake Lawrence Podcast, a weekly online radio show dedicated to the intersection of Chicago industry, technology, and thought leadership. We're sponsored by Corporate Suites Network, the premier corporate housing provider in Chicago. You can visit them and talk to their experienced staff at csnhousing.com. If you or your company is in the market for short-term rentals and high-end luxury apartments, Corporate Suites Network are the people you stay with. csnhousing.com. We're also sponsored by Vital Signs USA. Vital Signs USA is the premier Chicago area custom sign company serving customers in the Midwest region and across the nation. Vital Signs USA has the expertise and resources to ensure your project is completed in a timely and cost-effective manner. Get a quote on custom business signs that will speak to your company's brand today at vitalsignsusa.com. Finally, we're sponsored by Zunis Labs. Develop your website. Zunis Labs is the easiest way to manage your web presence and improve your website to grow your traffic. Visit them and subscribe to their newsletter at zunislabs.com. zunislabs.com. Today's guest is Mr. Tio Hardiman, Mr. CeaseFire himself. He is the executive director of Violence Interrupters, a nonprofit organization dedicated to mediating violence with a specialization in conflict resolution in inner cities, especially Chicago. Mr. Hardiman is a frequent media contributor on the issues of Chicago violence and gang conflict. He's been all across the board. He's been on every local affiliate of every major television network. He's been on CNN, BBC. He's been interviewed for NPR stories covered by the New York Times Magazine, the Trib, the Red Eye Jet, the Sun Times, a lot of others. And he's just really an all-around nice guy to talk to. He's articulate, he's thoughtful, and I truly went away from the conversation more humble. And that's because it's not easy recognizing the facts and getting an intimate feel about the fact that there is extreme violence and poverty happening an hour away from where I live and work. The south side of Chicago is experiencing something truly remarkable, and I think it is of the utmost importance to have open discussions about it. So without further ado, Mr. Tio Hardiman. All right. Today we have Tio Hardiman on the show. Thank you so much, Tio, for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's an honor to be on your show.
You know, I was looking at your LinkedIn. I've been looking at your website, and you are doing some very intense work in Chicago. You're the executive director for a nonprofit called Violence Interrupters. You're the former Democratic candidate for governor for Illinois. And you've really dedicated your life and career to community organizing for peace and social change. Can you just give us a little brief overview of your entire career?
Yes, without a doubt. Well, I'm Tio Hardiman. I hold a master's degree in inner city studies, and I'm the former director of CeaseFire, Illinois, which I work statewide to help reduce violence, in cities like, Chicago, Peoria, Decatur, and cities throughout the United States, along with a few cities in the UK. But most important is that I'm the president now of Violence Interrupters Incorporated, and I teach as an adjunct professor at Governor State University in the field of criminal justice. And I've been out here working. I'm the creator of the Violence Interrupters. I actually created the Violence Interrupter Initiative back in 2004, and it's a public health-based initiative because we look at violence as a public health issue as it relates to violence spreads like a contagious disease because it spreads from one person's psyche or their mind to another person, and we do our best to try to interrupt and diffuse volatile situations before they turn deadly. So far this year in Chicago, my staff, along with myself, we've mediated around maybe 15 conflicts that could have turned deadly in Chicago. It's not a big number, but it's a solid number of lives we saved. That's 15 lives from January 1st of 2017 until like March 15th of 2017. So the work is ongoing. Right now, the Violence Interrupters are also working in Springfield, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Champaign, Urbana here in Illinois, and I'm in the process of setting up a program down in Gainesville, Florida, and possibly Jacksonville, Florida. So we're doing the best we can. I'm always on the speaker circuit, speaking throughout the United States on this issue of violence, because something really has to be done here in Chicago. I've been working as a community organizer, community leader, anti-violence advocate for about 15 years now. And it's good work for me because I don't do it for the money all the time. I do it to save lives. And the payoff in the end is when you see young people that are like 10 years ago, if you help somebody turn their life around, now they're 25 years old, after 10 years, and they were 15 then, that's the payoff. When you see them doing good, you know, they're homeowners, they're married, and living with their family and everybody.
That's powerful work. The actual program, the initiative itself, it's a nonprofit, but it's also, it has additional funding from the state of Illinois, or?
Yeah, right now my funding comes from private donors, to be honest with you.
Okay.
My program in Springfield, Ohio is being funded by private people there. In Chicago, I've put in some grants or either proposals to try to seek some funding, but I'm kind of outspoken against the mayor here in Chicago, so I don't think they'll fund my program. Not right now. The mayor funded my program when I was with CeaseFire. They gave us $2 million, and we did pretty good with the work, with the funding as well.
Yeah.
But however, now in 2017, I'm not sure if I'll receive any city funding because of the reason, because I am outspoken against injustices. Nothing personal. Mm-hmm. I love all human beings. I want to make that clear, but we do speak out against injustices here in Chicago. However, I do receive funding from certain churches in Chicago, like I say, private donors here. Mm-hmm. And then I'm in the process of meeting with some multimillionaires probably within the next week and a half, and they're interested in funding my overall program. So I think that's going to be really good so we can help get this violence down once and for all.
Yeah, I wish you the best of luck with that. Well, Tio, I kind of wanted to get into your personal life and your upbringing, and then I kind of want to transition into the violence interrupters model a little bit. And then you kind of touched on a little bit of the Chicago injustices, so we can't escape that either. But first, though, you grew up in Chicago's notorious Henry Horner housing projects, right?
Yeah, I grew up in the Henry Horner projects on the near west. We call it the low end of the west side, right around the United Center.
Yeah.
I also grew up in the Avalon Park community on the south side of Chicago as well.
Okay, well, just for your perspective, I grew up in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and it's pretty gated, right, man. And I never experienced really anything like devastating effects of a violence epidemic. What was it like, and how did it influence you?
Well, the thing about it, violence has become the norm here in Chicago. And growing up in the projects, and even in Avalon Park community, they call it Line City, short for Avalon Park. Violence was all around back then. You had the guys out there, the bullies. You had the gangs organizing out there. And I had to stay away from all that crazy stuff. But basically, I've witnessed violence firsthand. I've seen people get hurt. I grew up in a rough place in the Henry Horner projects, but not just the Henry Horner projects. When I was 15, 16 years old, I was, I visited all the projects, Robert Taylor, Cabrini Green, because, I used to go on the party scene. I was partying everywhere, and encountered a lot of pretty tough, go-for-tough guys, but I never worried about it because I think at an early age of 16 years old, I became like a man-child. I thought I was a man at 16. I wasn't a real tough guy, but I was the kind of guy, I'm not going to, let nobody do nothing to me. So, I'm laughing now because it was like a journey, and we survived. Don't get me wrong, I had some close calls, had a few little run-ins here or there, but I was able to navigate throughout all that, and I still got a lot of respect. People know me from back then, and, one thing about growing up on the south or west side, people know you since you were like a teenager. If anything bad was out there on you, everybody would know. So I got respect, long-time respect from everywhere. But I wouldn't want to wish my upbringing on anybody because I grew up kind of rough and encountered some problems, not with me per se, but my uncles. They were drug addicts. I grew up in a drug-infested household, and it was kind of rough. Lights were out, no food in the refrigerator at times, and your stomach started growling, and you have to eat. You need something to eat. It's kind of rough, especially being a younger person. So you might find yourself, doing what you have to do to make sure that you can feed your belly, okay?
Yeah.
And,
so, hey, this idea of interrupting violence and this idea of community organizing, was it planted in your head back then, or were these more recent ideas that you developed?
No, what happened? It was planted in my head back then. That's a good question. Growing up, I always I read a lot of books about Malcolm X, read books about Nelson Mandela, Dr. King, just reading the books because I wasn't around when they were doing what they were doing. And I read books about, and I was like a history buff. I read about all the presidents of the United States all the way back to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. I read books about Nat Turner, the slave rebellion back, like in the early years of America, the slave trade. Yeah. And read books about the Irish, the Italians, you name it. And basically, I was always attracted to community activism. I looked at the life of, what's his name, this guy Stephen Biko over there in South Africa, and other individuals that stood for change, Mahatma Gandhi, those are the people that I respect a lot. So I think it was just a natural calling for me. I was born on September 21st, and that day represents the International Day of Peace. So blessed are the peacemakers. All praises due to God. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I've had the opportunity to travel the world a little bit. Sat down and met with Prime Minister David Cameron a few years ago when he was the Prime Minister over in the UK there. And that was a special session for me, a special encounter. Theresa May is the Prime Minister now. She's a good friend of mine. And the British Consulate, overall, I have a good relationship with the British Consulate. And also, I met with Queen Noor from Jordan in Washington, D.C. A few years ago at the Canadian Embassy there. We were attending an event there, and I got a chance to take pictures with her and talk to her about the work. So I've been blessed, traveled to about maybe 42 states here in the United States throughout my life. I just got to finish out like Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Alaska. Yeah. Once I wrap those other states up, therefore I would have traveled to all the states in the United States.
Wow, man, you've been around, you've seen a lot of things, and you've met a lot of really interesting people.
Yeah, without a doubt. So that's why it's good to participate in this interview on your podcast, because people need to know. And then, like I said, I also ran for governor back in 2014 and secured close to 30% of the state vote. People counted me out in the polls were saying I would only get 5% of the state vote, but we secured close to 30%. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. And violence interrupters is a natural for me because I believe that I have a special anointing to go out and intervene in these conflicts, because I've gone in these war zones, so to speak, in the concrete jungle here in Chicago. And it's not easy because this work is not for the faint at heart, and do not try this at home, okay?
Yeah. Well, Tio, you say, going into the inner city, you say that this work isn't for the faint of heart. Take us through just a day of Violence Interrupter team and try to paint a picture of what the inner city looks like and what a violent episode in progress looks like.
Oh, yeah, I'll walk you through a story here. About a month and a half ago, over on the west side of Chicago, the West Garfield community, which is located like around Pulaski and Madison. That's like it's not the far west side, but it's like in between the west side around, like I say, the West Garfield community. This individual jumped out of his van and knocked a guy to the ground with a big stick, okay? I don't use names because when I mediate conflicts, I have a pact with the people that I don't put their names out there unless they give me permission to do so. And that's the reason why they trust me with, some of these little secrets and what's going on in the community. Mm. But in this situation, the big guy jumped out the car, knocked the guy in the head with a stick, and the guy that he hit with the stick had a box cutter in his in his pocket. He pulled it out and tried to cut the big guy. Big guy jumped in his car and he sped off. He drove off. Now the only problem is the guy that he hit with the stick was not no guy. He wasn't no chump, and this guy is well respected over there in that neighborhood. And so the big guy, once he hit him, he found out who the guy was. He told me a lie at first. He said he didn't know who the guy was, but he knew who the guy was. He was going over there to hit this particular guy and try to force him to sell some pills for him, some illegal pills, okay? In the meantime, I get a call from the big guy, and he said some guys that know me gave him my phone number, and he asked me, could I go talk to the guy that he hit? But remember, he told me that he didn't know the guy. Uh-huh. So I go talk to the guy he hit. He gave me the name. I go over there and talk to him. And the guy told me, say, look, man, the guy jumped out the car, hit me in the head with a stick, and I was going to try to kill him. I had my box cutter. He said he wish he had his gun. He said, I didn't have my gun with me. But the thing is, we worked it out as far as me talking to the guy. But he told me, the guy that got hit with the stick, he said, you know what? As long as I don't see the guy anymore, I plan to let the situation go, as long as I don't see him. But this is the problem. The guy that got hit with the stick is related, and he has a son, a teenager son, like 18 or 19, that will shoot you in front of a crowd of 30 or 40 people, okay? He got a son that's real tough. Wow. So I didn't talk to the son. I just talked to the guy that got hit. And after talking to him, he said, I tell you what, Tio, as long as I don't see the guy, I'm going to let it go. So I go back and talk to the big man, and the big man finally told me the truth, that he knew who the guy was. He just thought he could intimidate him. A big bully. This guy's a big guy, around 6'4", over 300 pounds, got a big long ponytail in the back of his head, but he hit the wrong guy this time. So I told him, the guy said, as long as he don't see him, it's over with. Now keep in mind, both of these guys live in close proximity to one another. So when I went over to talk to the big man called me back and said, I tell you what, forget it then. You know, whatever you want to do, we'll just do it. For some reason, the big guy got tough again, to make a long story short. Even though the other guy told me he was going to let it go. And then when the big man found out who this guy's son was, the big guy asked me, did I know anything about any relocation programs, okay? I'm just being honest with the people that may listen, because this guy's son is the real deal, serious business, all right? So I had to work out a whole lot of particulars. Sometimes you have to use reverse psychology on people. So I went back to the guy that got hit. I told him to tell his son, the big man is apologizing, like 1,000 apologies for what he did. He's so sorry. He didn't really know who the guy was. And I tried to play it off like he really didn't know, okay? Even though I knew the guy lied, okay? I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
And we had to work it out. And the son, he said, I tell you what, Tio, because you and my father said this, I plan to let it go. I'm going to leave it alone because my father, he got hit in the head. His head got swollen up a little bit, but it wasn't like life-threatening. And we going to let it go because you all asked me to. Otherwise, he was going to kill the guy, okay? Period.
Wow.
I went back over there and talked to the big man. I told him it's all over with. I need you to come with me and trust me. I sat the big man down with the guy that he hit and his son, and we let it go. I mean, it was a touchy situation, but we let it go. That's a conflict mediated, and we follow up on the conflicts 30 days after we mediate the conflict to make sure that nothing else, transpired and nothing else happened that we didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
But that was a tough one there. That was a tough one.
Wow, man, that sounds really intense. That sounds intense.
That's the real deal.
The type of person, the 18-year-old, 19-year-old that would shoot someone dead in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
Is that pretty common in the inner city?
Yeah, it's common because most people are scared to step up and be a witness. People are like, hey, look, that has nothing to do with me. I plan to look the other. Most people look the other way. That's why there's like a 28 to 30% homicide clearance rate here in Chicago because people are not stepping up. And I'll cut through the chase with you. When people on the streets of Chicago, they call the guns thumpers or they call them flashlights, okay?
Why?
So I'll tell you why. Thumper is something that you thump with, something you go to war with, okay? That's the reason. That's why they use the connotation thumper, all right?
Yeah.
Now, the word flashlight is when that flash of fire come out that gun, they call them flashlights. So the reason I mention that to you is because when them guns come out, you'll see how tough you really are, okay? That's why I say this work is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Well, hey, so it's not for the faint of heart. Yeah, definitely. But how do you get anyone to do this work? I mean, who's the ideal candidate to be a violence interrupter? Who's the ideal candidate to be on part of your team?
Well, the ideal candidate is a young man or a young woman that basically has some fortitude, a street-savvy individual, a person that can complete a 40-hour training, which I offer 40-hour trainings for all violence interrupters, to teach them in the areas of conflict mediation, gang mediation, conflict resolution, gang mediation, the fundamentals of outreach work, working with high-risk youth. So it's academic and the street. You got to have both, you have to have both type of personality. You have to have both skill sets. That's the better word to use.
Yeah.
And people that are kind of street tough, people that understand the mindset of these young people out here shooting these guns. Because if one of them guys was to get mad at you while you're mediating the conflict, say, you better get out my face, you have to be prepared to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So give us the kind of like the state of the union for Chicago and kind of brief in a little bit earlier what you said about the injustices that you think the administration for the city is doing. I mean, what's happening? How is it progressing? And do you think it's going to get better?
Well, the bottom line is that Mayor Rahm Emanuel, like I said, I don't dislike him as a human being. He covered up a homicide in the case of Laquan McDonald, because everybody heard about that. But for those who have not heard about it, this was the 16-year-old African-American young man who was shot like more than 16 times by one of the police officers who arrived on the scene and just executed this young guy.
Yeah.
And the police officers that were on the scene, they covered it up in the paperwork saying it was justified. And then Rahm Emanuel knew about it, but it was the election season. So he basically didn't say anything about it until after he won his re-election bid, okay?
Right.
And it was revealed later that Superintendent McCarthy, Anita Alvarez, the former state's attorney, they all knew about this, and they pretty much agreed that they wouldn't say anything. So where the problem comes in at is this. If the videotape had not been released, Rahm Emanuel would have taken this execution to the grave with him, okay? That's the bigger problem. So when guys like me speak out against injustice, that's what I mean. So the state in 2017, when it comes to speaking out against injustice, there's a lot happening in Chicago. You got a new superintendent, Eddie Johnson. who's trying his best to reform the police department. Rahm feels like he's out of the woods now because he's made a lot of changes, for the most part. But this is the only issue with that. Here it is, his superintendent, he fired McCarthy. Anita Alvarez got voted out of office. 2 city attorneys resigned. Independent Police Review Authority, the head of that department, that person resigned. They have a new person over there now. But all those people were part of the problem. And then out of 10,000 or more cases that were kind of filed against Chicago police officers, only 1% were actually, taken serious. So there's a preponderance of evidence that dictates the fact that the Independent Police Review Authority did not take care of any business for the people. It seemed like they always sided with the police, okay? I'm not anti-police. I want to make that clear. I have police friends and people that, do pretty good as police officers. However, the Department of Justice conducted an investigation and came out with a scathing report that pretty much exposed the Chicago Police Department as one of the most corrupt police departments in the nation. So we must continue to stand up and fight for progressive change when it comes down to the police department, because it's just a lot of things have taken place, and Rahm Emanuel was part of the Code of Silence, which was exposed during the investigation as well. So that's the reason why we speak out against Rahm. It's nothing, he's a family man. He has a wife and a son. We care about him as a family man, but not as the mayor of Chicago. So I plan to continue to speak out against him, whether I receive funding or not. And anything, because it's not even a black and white issue. We've spoken up against African-American officers, white officers, Hispanic officers. So it's not a race thing. It's more like we need to do the right thing. But also what's good about the work of Violence Interrupters Incorporated, we speak out against the violence in the community as well, not just police violence, violence on all levels.
Tio, man, I could really hear your passion for this. It's contagious. And, you're doing such a good job, and we really need more of your voices out there and more people like you. But I did want to try to circle back with the police, with the police violence. And that's a national topic right now. Yes. And it continues to be with each incident that happens. I want to talk a little bit about why it's happening so much and why it's happening so much in Chicago. I mean, so you said it's not a race thing. Is it a training issue? Is it a philosophy issue?
Oh, no. Let me clear this up for you. When I mentioned it's not a race thing, I was saying it's not a race thing with me. I have friends that are police, white, black, Hispanic friends all across the universe. So it's not a race thing for me. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to police misconduct and the use of excessive force, it is a race thing. I want to make that clear to the listeners. Okay. That is a race thing, because it's 8 times out of 10, it's an African-American person that's been abused or, taken advantage of by the police, all right? Mm-hmm. So that's, where the problem stems from is nobody wants to talk about this. It's like the elephant in the room. See, in 1919, there was a Chicago race riot. And when I talk about this, it's a sensitive subject matter, but what happened is that African-American people were migrating from the South to the North, Chicago in particular, and they bumped heads with a lot of Irish people that were living around the stockyards back then. So you had Irish gangs that were killing and attacking African-American youth and African-American families. So African-American people began to band together and form their own little gangs to fight back. So the Irish people in particular, not all Irish people, I want to make that clear, because I have Irish friends as well, but we're going back about 100-something plus years now. This is the thing. The Irish people back then were trying to protect what they thought was their neighborhood. They stopped attacking African-American people, and they became the police officers, the prosecutors, and the judges. So that's where it all stems from back then, because the same people that were hating and racist towards African-American people became the authorities. So all of a sudden now you got this 60, 70, 80-year span of police misconduct that was never addressed. African-American politicians, African-American police officers, high-ranking police officers never addressed this issue, because they were in the comfort zone. This abuse and excessive force has been going on for at least 60 years. So you have a problem, and that's why I really applaud the younger people of today's generation for taking on this issue, because if not for some of the younger brothers and sisters, and myself included, as far as standing up, because I've been standing up way before all the other people stood up on the issue, but you're like a lone wolf standing on your own dealing with this issue, because it's not the politically correct thing to do, because people get scared of their position. So that's where it all stems from. Nobody wants to talk about it. So now the mayor is making a lot of changes, of course, but I have the history on all this information, okay? When I speak from history.
That's an interesting perspective. It's unique, and personally, I'm a little bit of a history buff too, and that's really never entered my reading at all. So that's kind of surprising, man. I'll link to that Wikipedia page actually at the end of the article. Okay, so you've identified why it happens. Can you identify what the steps are to either mitigate it or to end that conflict between the police officers and African Americans?
Well, I think change is on the horizon. There's just a lack of trust when it comes down to the police. But you got a lot of good white police officers out there. I met quite a few of them. They were cool. Matter of fact, I had a good relationship once before with Klein. That's many years ago. He was superintendent in Chicago, Jody Weiss. And a lot of officers out there, they're like unsung heroes. You got officers, white, black, or Hispanic, Asian. They go in houses not knowing if they were going to come out alive, doing their best to save a life. We've had officers that broke down doors and pulled people out of houses when the houses are on fire, doing a lot of good stuff in the neighborhood. It's just a few officers that cross the line make it bad for the entire department. Even though I have an issue with Rahm with the Laquan McDonald situation, I think Rahm is doing everything in his power now to try to straighten things out, but that doesn't really shield him from the injustice and the code of silence that he played a part in. So I believe that things are getting better, and the way you mitigate it is you organize community forums and educate the people and provide them with up-to-date information on how many cops are pretty much like how many charges have been filed against cops, what are the next steps. I mean, like everything, when you get your overall crime report, what should be included in that crime report is the statistics related to police misconduct. So the public at large will be in tune with what's going on. I would like to applaud the FBI because what they're doing now, they're in the process of organizing some meetings with community people, so they're going to show what dictates the use of deadly force. And that's something I recommended to a few of the justice departments because I think there should be a video produced like a PSA where somebody could talk in layman's terms about this is what constitutes the use of deadly force. Maybe they can get a celebrity person or even myself, it doesn't matter, somebody that can talk real English to the people in the neighborhoods. If you get caught running down the street with a gun, within our jurisdiction, if we feel like we can shoot you. If you get caught running in a public way with a gun, we have the discretion to shoot or not. That needs to be explained to the people, okay? And then there's a couple other scenarios. If they catch you with a gun, they can't just shoot you. They shouldn't just shoot you. But the thing is, if you pointed a gun at an officer and they tell you to put it down, and they should just show this in a video so people will clearly understand, and therefore won't be no confusion about what dictates the use of deadly force.
That's a great idea. And do you think that people in the inner city don't know about the use of force? I mean, it seems a little surprising to me to hear that.
No, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. What's going on is a lot of young people do not know. They really don't. It's not like they've been educated on it. For example, you got some of these situations where I remember the police shot and killed a guy after he shot and killed somebody. The guy was standing over a body, pumping bullets into this guy, and the police shot and killed him when they arrived on the scene. The family of the guy, they were mad, but he had just killed somebody himself. So, I mean, you got to weigh these situations out individually so you can get a better understanding in regards to what really happened. Laquan McDonald, matter of fact, I'll fast track to New York, Staten Island when they choked Eric Gardner to death, okay? Mm-hmm. It was caught live on video. Those officers were able to walk. Those guys straight up put him in a legal chokehold, and he was not a threat to them at all, and he was killed. Eric Gardner there. So, you see, the thing is, people know, but the police have abused their power. Not all police, but some police have abused their power for so long, people just don't trust the police, but that doesn't mean that the relationship cannot get any better. I believe that we can work on the steps for the healing process, okay?
Yeah, man, it sounds like the issues are complicated. They're really, messy. There's a lot of moving targets, and it's going to take a lot of community change and maybe even organizational change. And hell, it's going to take a lot of awareness in the communities itself,
That's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, and do you think, and I agree this is going to be a loaded question, but do you think like a sense of spirituality in either police officers or people in the inner city Chicago can help with this?
No, spirituality is very important. That's why I said earlier, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I believe truly in my heart of hearts that if people had a spiritual base, that some of the decisions they make to harm others, they probably wouldn't make those decisions. And I do believe that faith-based leaders play a strong role in helping the city heal. And that's what is needed out here. And on all levels, the community must come together. But there's another elephant in the room, to be honest with you, that nobody wants to talk about. I'm probably the only guy that may talk about this at times. See, you must understand this, and the listeners. See, there's a target there's a target on the backs of a lot of African-American youth, which is hitting them from a lot of different areas. For example, the illegal drug trade primarily takes place in the black community. I'm talking about open market sales on corners and stuff. Even though other people use drugs, because drugs are universal, it's just not racial. Like, it's not about race, because a lot of people end up using drugs, but you don't have anybody selling dope the way they're selling it like they're doing in the African-American community, okay? Illegal gun trade. Those guns are being pushed in the African-American community. You never know who's sending all them guns in the community. You really never know. And I'm not trying to say it's a conspiracy theory, but if it was not for African-American youth breaking the law, the criminal justice system would probably be 60% bankrupt, okay?
Right.
Because African-American youth, if they were not out there selling drugs, I mean, what would be the purpose of the police coming in there, doing investigations and all that stuff? So my thing is, FBI, the ATF, and CIA, they should do a better job at intercepting the illegal drug trade before it hits the streets of Chicago. And they should also stop the illegal gun trade from hitting the streets of Chicago. And I believe that way we can work on the healing process in a spiritual way and on every other level. That definitely needs to happen, because I truly believe that with the drug game anyway, that it's all a big setup. I just truly believe that.
Yeah, no, the war on drugs is a big topic, and I don't think there's anyone, any real academic or scholar out there that is really pushing for the continued use of the war on drugs. At this point, it's really only politicians that may or may not have a stake in it, What is your personal views on drug use, and especially on cannabis use?
With cannabis use, I think there shouldn't be no law against marijuana nowhere. I mean, seriously. I mean, just being honest, if I was like, Donald Trump, people kind of have issues with Donald Trump, but I think I'm not a Republican per se, even though I ran as a Democrat, but I'm more of a progressive independent Democrat or a Republican-minded type of person at times, because the Democrats have been in charge in Chicago for decades, and we still have all these problems. And not to say that they're going to solve everything, but Trump is a one-of-a-kind type of guy. I'll get right back to your question in a minute, but I just want to say about Trump. He's the first president that really tweeted about what the hell is going on in Chicago with all the violence, okay?
Yeah.
And he hasn't done much about it, don't get me wrong, but at least he's acknowledging it, and he's actually doing his personal tweets about it. No other president has done that before. So at the same time, marijuana, the young brothers out there selling the marijuana, they should be able to sell marijuana legally and open up an actual business. I'm not saying they do it on the streets, but open up a business, because marijuana, and the thing is, I know about addiction as well, and I don't want to overtalk myself, but marijuana is not the type of drug that's really hurting a lot of people per se. Maybe years later, marijuana might have a real impact on your blood system or some other, problems associated with marijuana usage. But I think they should really, the same way back during the Prohibition days with alcohol, they should make marijuana legal. I mean, that's just my take on it.
Oh, well, that's a very fair take on it. You're not alone in having that take and that perspective, and it's probably only going to be growing more and more, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time until the prohibition on cannabis ends in Illinois. So we'll see how that really affects the violence in Chicago, but I'm hearing more from you the violence is more as a result of the illegal gun trade and more of the harder drugs, right?
No, this is what the violence is really stemming from. Poverty, see, this is what happens when people grow up in some of these impoverished communities. Some individuals do their best to dictate and dominate their surrounding. Believe it or not, it's not all gang related. You have more interpersonal violence now. You have individuals that have been taught violent responses to any type of situation or incident that they may encounter. Everybody has been pretty much what you might say, violence is a way of life. Like, if you look at me the wrong way, you bump into me, you try to talk to my girl when I'm present, my response is to kill you, okay? And I'm talking about the guys on the streets, how they think nowadays. So we have to be very careful when it comes down to categorizing everything as gang-related, because gangs play a role, but most young people from certain neighborhoods, not all of them, their response is going to be to take your life, no matter how small the infraction may be. So that's where the violence stems from. And believe it or not, all the violence is not even from drug selling. A lot of this violence is just people getting the personal beefs out here. As far as what I'm hearing, and some of the conflicts we mediate has nothing to do with drugs all the time.
That's incredible. That's problematic for my worldview and from my perspective on what's happening in Chicago, because in my mind, it's all gang violence, man. And, and it's just like now there's a whole nother layer to this problem. And if it is all these interpersonal beefs and stuff like that, man, how do you untangle that? Like, what's the solution to that?
Well, see, this is the thing. That's the reason why the police can't stop it because, and like I say, I'm not anti-police, but the reality is this. You have 14,000 police. If they can't stop it, what makes people think that other programs can stop it? The solution, the one solution nobody wants to talk about, because every time I talk about it, when I'm doing a TV interview or whatever, most people don't want to cover it. I may speak about it, but they don't show it. In order to stop the killing in the black community, it could stop overnight if black men were to unify. And I'm not saying unify against the system. I'm saying unify in their communities, deal with the young people out there that are shooting them guns and let them know, and I'm talking about their family members as well, and let them know we are all one big extended family. All this killing in our community has got to come to an end right now, because if you guys don't stop killing each other, we're going to bring 20,000 men on this block every day of the week until all the killing stops in Chicago. It's over with. It's been a wrap. Black men are stepping up now. We're tired of it. It's over with. But to get African-American men to do just that is not easy, okay?
So on your website, tiohardiman.com, TIOHARDIMAN.com, your logo, it says violence interrupters, and then it's a black fist, man, doing the black power symbol, right?
Yes, sir. Well, it's just a fist. Letting you know, man, we got to stand strong. It's about power, yes. But see, it's not really about black power. It's about universal power.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can't limit nobody. See, that's why I told you it's not a race thing. We all have to come together to address this issue. And you got some white brothers and Hispanic brothers out there that are concerned about this violence as well. So we don't want to try to, eliminate anybody from, working with us.
Universal power, man. That's an awesome message to have. It's not about black power. It's about universal power, and it's about unification.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what I'm about.
Dude, I can't tell you how difficult this all seems to me. It seems to me like it's an impossible task, and it seems to me like you don't just have your work cut out for you, but you have your life cut out for you. And how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you keep yourself positive?
That's another good question. Well, what I do is, believe it or not, 30 minutes out of every day, I just sit back and I meditate. I turn my phone off, no television, just sit in my basement and just chill for about 30 minutes just to get my thoughts together. That's number one. Number two, I'm a very highly energetic person. I run a couple of miles twice a week, lift weights, hit the heavy bag, jump rope, jumping jacks, sit-ups, whatever I can do to keep myself in shape. Mm-hmm. To the best of my ability. So that's one way. And then I'm spiritual. I pray 3 times a day. So it's about keeping your sanity in the midst of all this chaos and stuff. But at the same time, that's how I keep myself, occupied and keep myself mentally balanced. Balance is important.
Balance is important. Yeah, that's a quote, man, for the show, probably.
My man.
Okay, so in terms of the inner city youth right now that are facing all these very, very challenging issues, these violent issues, what are the skill sets that you think they need to exist and to kind of better situate themselves in this chaos, as you put it?
Well, I'll be straight up with you. I'm going to talk to you in layman's terms now, so you people that are listening, they need to understand what I'm about to say. Even though I have a master's degree, I'm a professor and all that kind of good stuff, adjunct professor. Right now, hypothetically speaking, the mayor and the superintendent continues to say that there's around 1,400 individuals that are driving the violence in Chicago, okay? Mm-hmm. Right now, the mayor, superintendent, or the governor, if they're listening, whoever may be listening, hypothetically speaking, if they were to give me $5 to $6 million a year for my program and allow me to work with those 1,400 individuals that are driving the violence, but one thing that's going to have to happen, one thing that must happen, and you're going to laugh at this, I need to be in a position where I can take 30 to 40 of them guys at a time down into a basement with me and cuss them out. I'm talking about cuss them out real strong. And the reason I say that because I need to join their world for a minute and then bring them into my world to the higher level after that. But the young men respond to certain people, they talk to them a certain way. It's not like you condemning them. It's not like you trying to downgrade them. But, I had to join their world, and I got to speak a lot of profanity. Like, my man, I need you, I really need you to do this with me, and you got to say it a certain way. And then let me penetrate their minds, and then give them a job with me, and I guarantee you we can reduce the violence by about at least 60% in Chicago.
Wow, that's a bold claim. That is a unique way of going about it, too. Wow. You're going to take them into a basement and you're going to cuss them out.
You damn right. Hey, look, I'm just being honest with you. I got to talk a certain way. So I have to do it a certain way. I'm not just saying go off on them. I got to let them know we need you guys as young brothers to be men. All this going back and forth, killing each other, is a bunch of theatrics. Nobody's going to win in the end. By the time you turn 40, 45, you become a liability on your family. You don't have nothing. And when you go to jail, nobody's sending you anything. Mm-hmm. I need you guys to stand up and be men with me right now. And I'm going to give you a job, but I need you to come on board with me to stop the killing. I need you to talk to your friends and your partners out there and get on board with this thing here, man. And I guarantee you, and I'm not going to tell you all the way I would talk to them, but that's just give you a preview of how I have to get through their minds.
Wow. Well, again, I wish you the best of luck. This seems the biggest hurdle that I've ever heard of. It's weird too, Tio. I'm not gonna lie. I work near O'Hare Airport. I live in the suburbs, predominantly white. Hearing about all this just an hour away from me, east,
right?
It's kind of weird. It's like completely surreal to me,
That's right.
What do you have to say to like my audience who is predominantly in the suburbs or isn't experiencing this firsthand?
Well, first and foremost, what I say to everybody, take care of your family and your kids and your extended family members first. And secondly, do your best to pray for the inner city. And for those who want to support the cause, reach out to me. That's the best thing to say, because the reality of it is this here. It's hard work, okay? In order to really stop this violence, we need a lot of brilliant minds to come to the table. But that's the best thing I can say to the people in the suburban areas, because the reason why some people live out in the far suburbs or whatever, they want to make sure their kids are not growing up around a lot of this crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And what hurts in Chicago is you got innocent people being shot and killed at times. And like this young girl, I just met with her family today. She was raped live on Facebook by 5 guys, okay?
Yeah.
This young girl attends Lane Tech High School, one of the best high schools in Chicago. Now she's dealing with the trauma of being a rape victim. And it may take years for this young lady to really heal from the inside out. And
or never.
It's crazy out here. That family right now, they want to be relocated somewhere. So I'm organizing a press conference tomorrow to ask everybody in the city that's concerned to help relocate this young lady and her family so they can live in peace somewhere. So that's one way people can help. Because, like I say, I really advocate for people looking out for their own families first. And I say that from self-experience, because guys like me go out here and try to save the world. And sometimes we forget to make sure we take our own family first.
Yeah, do a lot of self-care, that's for sure.
Right, that's what's happening.
Well, hey, Tio, I'm going to wrap up here. But before we do, for every guest, I like to do this thing where I put them on a lonely island, right? And you got one book and one book only to bring with you on the lonely island. Which book would that be?
Yeah, that's a good one there. That's some of the books I've read here lately, but that would probably be that's a real good question. I'll tell you what, I'll probably bring the Bible with me. The reason why, because I haven't taken out time to read the entire Bible. I might read little passages in the Bible, but I probably need to study the Bible a little more just to get more of a spiritual meaning from a lot of the different stories in the Bible. That would be the main book, because I owe God the ability to read the Bible, because I play games and don't do my research like I should with the Bible.
All right. You know what's surprising to me is that a lot of my guests are saying that exact same answer. So there's certainly a thread there. Okay. What about a musical record, one album or one artist to bring with you?
Oh, well, that's another good. Hey, if I could resurrect James Brown from the dead, not that I'm so old school, just James, he was a hell of an entertainer, he had some hell of a music, okay? But to bring you up to 2017, it would probably be this artist by the name of Kim, K-E-M. He's an excellent singer. This guy is really, really talented, and I would actually have him to sing and entertain,
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then if you could put one website in the back of your pocket and bring it to the Lonely Island, which one would it be?
Wow, another good question, my brother. That website would probably be How to Get Off the Island. I'm just messing with you with that, but I would, now that I have to really think about that, I would probably put a website down that would talk about meditation, something on meditation.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And one app that you can't live without.
Whoa. I'm trying to detox off social media and all that stuff now. I can live without the apps. Trust me, I can live without them.
You can live without them.
yeah, I can live without them. Don't even worry about me on that. I can live without them.
That's awesome. All right. Well, hey, listen, I'm not religious, Tio. I try to be spiritual, and I do my meditation, but I don't say this often, but Tio, you're doing God's work out there. And
Yes.
I say that from the bottom of my heart of hearts. And I do wish you the best of luck. And if people want to get more involved in your work, what's the best way for them to contact you or to find you online?
Yeah, I'm on social. I'm on Facebook, Tio Hardiman. LinkedIn, Tio Hardiman. My website is tiohardiman.com. My email is tio_h@yahoo.com. And I'll repeat that. That's tio_h@yahoo.com. And they can call me directly as well. I have no problem putting my number out there. It's area code 773-391-9072. So people can reach out to me. Let's try to make the world a better place for everybody.
All right, Tio, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I'll definitely be reaching out to you probably later in the year for you to be on the podcast again.
Appreciate you very much.